consequences for people who abuse the police in this manner. And so there is already a part of this. I put my constitutional law hat on. The Supreme Court said years ago in cases that were non-criminal cases that you cannot use state or federal government to perpetuate racism. That's already known. So we also know that abuse of process and other types of ways in which you cannot use government facilities to perpetuate racism or discrimination or to break the law. So if we would start fining these people and having not just a monetary fine, but the threat of some type of 10 days in jail for abusing the government in perpetuating racism, I think that we could limit some of this. And goes back to this accountability. Because I think if we don't use that prosecutor's office, for 400 years, a prosecutor, for the most part, has not prosecuted these cases. It was very unusual in the Emmett Till case that the case was prosecuted in the first place. So, but in most of these cases, they've not been prosecuted. And in most cases, those people who are abusing the police department by using them as their own private pit bull have not been held criminally accountable. And so I've written about this and I've talked about this, but yes, we need to make sure that we find people, because most laws are already on the book to find people who use ambulance services or police departments, and they're filing false complaints or they're using or abusing these services. But we don't use this when it comes to white people. We've seen it when somebody's gone missing and they've just run away, and we say, well, we're going to charge you the amount of money it took to go and investigate this case because, this was not a real case and you abused the services and the funds, and these police could be doing something else. So if we started using that for some of these Karens and Kens, then maybe we could, barbecue while black, sell Girl Scout cookies while black, go to the park while black, promenade while black. There's so many things that, we've been, little by little, the services we're supposed to be able to use, even our national parks, we pay into these things and we can't use them because they have been made into fearful places where we feel vulnerable and don't have protection. So speaking of January 6th, whom do we call now? What police department do we call? Karen and Ken can get the police to come in for somebody who's going door to door and just getting petitions or something for someone running for office. But we can't get the police department to protect us when our lives are in danger from people who want to harm us racially. And that includes Asian Americans and others. And I'll turn this around to one other thing, and that is Emmett Till resonates with us today because it is such a disgrace and a sin that this happened. And yet there are people who are angry for us for actually being mad for our people being killed. How dare you argue with us about the killing that took place? Just forget it, because for most of this country's history, people of color have been killed with impunity. How dare you protest about us killing you? How dare you be mad or sad to show any emotion after we, as America's whites, kill you? It's actually, for the most of American history, it was unheard of for any person of color to actually say something. They were supposed to show up passing the lynched bodies and go to work and not look sad, even if that was their relative hanging from the tree or burned alive. This is American history. That you're not supposed to get mad over people who want to slay folks who look like you. So that's why we've got so much ugliness, and I keep calling it sin, diabolical behavior that's happened in this so-called democracy, where there are still pictures on the internet that you can find where people have been burned alive. Burned alive. And the reason why we have the pictures is because these people stood in front of the smoking body and took pictures of themselves because they were proud and made those pictures in the postcards and sent those postcards around. They are shooting at the sign in Mississippi, the sign for Emmett Till. Every year somebody goes down and he shoots the sign, plaque that's put up in his name, somebody tears it down every year. So they're angry. How dare you actually, have a monument, want to do something to honor this person whose life was lost and symbolized so much. So the sickness, the psychological illness that we're dealing with in this country is so deep that when you ask, what can we do? When somebody's identity is based on them feeling better about themselves as long as their foot is on our necks or their knee is on our neck or we're laying prone on the ground in some way of submissiveness, then we have to look at what does it mean to be white in this country. And that's why I put those words in those characters' mouths, because we can't keep having this conversation without these white people owning up to their part of this problem. We can't look at it like it's a black problem in a vacuum and we can solve it ourselves, because they won't leave us alone. Even if we went to our own neighborhoods, they come in here, go to the neighborhoods and want to do harm. I mean, we've got to have a reckoning, and that's why this play hopefully will have conversations so that this country can actually see how sick it is.